Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Shawn Stevenson here with my beautiful co-host and producer, Jade Harrell. What's up, Jade?
What's up, Shawn?
How you doing today?
I am Phenom Movie.
Phenom Movie?
Phenom Movie.
What is that?
Phenomenally groovy.
Ooh,
I had to go
like
to
it.
Groovy.
Groovy, right.
Yeah.
It reminds me of John Travolta.
Right?
Yeah,
That's
I like
exactly
it.
where
like
that and Scooby-Doo.
Ruby Roo?
Yes.
Ruh?
Groovy.
Amazing. Funny thing, I was just actually watching the John Travolta movie. What was the name of it?
Which one? Pulp Fiction?
No.
Oh, back in the day, Saturday Night Live.
No, not that one.
No?
The one with Sandy. Oh my God, Sandy.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Grease,
yes.
of course.
Yes.
Everybody's like, it's Grease, Shawn.
I know, Eureka. Where are you?
I was just watching that. It's so funny. I just pulled that up. My son is a huge fan of these musicals, like he's Pitch Perfect.
Really?
He's watched it like 1,000 times.
So
but you never know.
cool. Not Jordan.
You know how cool he
Right,
is.
the
But on the
athlete
outside,
job,
right?
yeah.
But on the inside, he loves his musicals.
He's like a Eminem.
I don't know.
Crunchy on the outside and tender and juicy on the inside. Anyway.
I guess.
But
All right.
refer him to Xanadu. If he likes musicals, then that's a musical on skates.
Got it. Musical on skates. It sounds like too much. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a phenomenal show for you. I'm just so excited. I actually had the opportunity to spend some time with our guest at a recent event that he put together, and it was definitely life-changing. I mean, totally life-changing. But before we get to him, let's give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, Onnit.com. Head over to ONNIT/model for 10% off all of your health and human performance supplements. You know that we're huge fans of the Hemp Force protein already. If you've not tried the Hemp Force protein, do yourself a favor. Head over there and check them out. It tastes phenomenal, but it's also the most bioavailable protein for the human body. Edestin has been found to be the most usable protein structure, and it's uniquely found in hemp, and it's the most usable protein structure for the human body.
Wonderful.
So it's good stuff. But also, I don't talk much about their equipment, their exercise equipment.
You've got to.
Right? The steel clubs. I just got it's a battle rope from them. It's called Big Red.
Did you get that one?
It's a monstrosity.
I saw it online,
I love it.
and
So
I was in awe.
if you're checking me out on Instagram, I'm at Shawn Model, SHAWN Model on Instagram. And I've shown a couple of videos with me working with the steel club and doing the battle ropes. Really good stuff. So they've got all that good stuff as well. But you get 10% off all of their supplements by using the coupon code Model Health, or just going to onnit.com/model. All right, now let's go ahead and get into the iTunes review of the week.
This is my favorite part, and this is a really nice one. The best fitness and nutrition information ever. 5-star rating. This comes from Tim Ponticell. Dear Shawn and Jade, first I just want to say thanks. You two have truly made such a positive impact in my life. I run a health and fitness website myself, and I thought I knew a lot about fitness and nutrition. But after listening to your podcast, I realized a lot of things that I learned were wrong. You've empowered me to take a really hard look at how I'm choosing to spend my life. I'm a full-time engineer right now, but after learning this empowering information and putting it into action, I've received the clarity of thought that is telling me to spread the word and pursue my fitness and nutrition passion full-time. Your podcast has set me on the path to becoming the greatest version of myself, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds. Keep up the great work.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Some awesome.
That's really incredible. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that, Tim. And everybody, thank you for leaving those reviews over on iTunes. It means the world to us. Now let's go ahead and get into our topic and our special guest of the day. Today we have on the amazing Dr. Jeff Spencer. And I'm gonna read a little bit of his bio, but I'm gonna add some stuff in here too because I love this guy. So Jeff has an incredibly prolific athletic and professional career. He competed as a member of the 1972 U.S. Olympic team in track cycling. 9 times he was a team doctor for some incredible U.S. Tour de France teams. He received the prestigious award of International Sports Chiropractor of the Year. He's worked with Olympians, world champions, and international icons. And I recently had the opportunity to spend some time with Jeff at his Champions Blueprint program in LA. And it was a phenomenal experience. He's somebody who attracts greatness. He attracts greatness. Some of the people in the room with me was like Elton John's chiropractor, Usher's personal trainer, just like and world champions. There was an Olympian there, like multi-time Olympian. Olympic champion. It's just really phenomenal, the quality of character that he attracts. And in the program, he took us through his powerful, proven champion's blueprint and showed unequivocally that great success is not an accident, but a skill and system that anyone can tap into. Now he's here today to share some of the champion's blueprint with you so that you can achieve your champion goal and live the life that you truly deserve. I'd like to welcome to the Model Health Show, Dr. Jeff Spencer. How are you doing today, Jeff?
It's great, Shawn. Thanks for the invitation.
Welcome.
My man, I'm
Right.
so grateful to have you here.
I
So,
gotcha.
yeah, look, you've done a lot. Let's just get that out of the way. You've done more than most human beings could ever imagine. But I want to know about your kind of superhero origin story. How did you actually come into doing what you're doing today, working with all these champions and really successful people?
Well, I was a very industrious kid. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I used to get up every morning and go outside and hit my little baseball up and down the street by myself while everybody else was sleeping. And again, I thought a lot about a lot of things. And one of the things I was really captivated by was the Olympics. I had Olympics on the brain. But one thing I noticed is that the biggest and the baddest didn't always win. And I thought that that was very curious to me. And I wondered about that for a long time. And then when I was 13, I competed in my very first national cycling championship and won every race, which was interesting. And my parents got divorced the next year, and that was the last time I saw my dad when I was 13. And he was an artistic design genius, literally. And I found out 30 years later that he died homeless on the streets of New York City. So that was another kind of insight in the myth category that will and talent aren't enough. You could have all the talent in the world, you can have all the will, but if you don't have that something that the Olympians had that won, then the likelihood of succeeding was almost nil. And that was a very difficult period for me. And the silver lining to that dark cloud was the mentors that came into my life, almost like with perfect timing, like how they know that I needed to hear that at this moment in time. And they were iconic. They came from sport, they came from stage, they came from business, they came from life. It was non-denominational, and they shared with me their secrets on how they became iconic. And I saw for the second time the pattern again is that they didn't have the best pedigree, that they were always the first in line to grab the brass ring when it showed up. So again, they had what the Olympians had that won the gold medal that looked like they shouldn't have. And again, I really didn't know what that was, but yet I took their sagely advice and I applied the principles that they shared with me that did allow me to make an Olympic team. I owe everything to them, and it allowed me to go to a very prestigious university as an educational opportunity scholarship student because I came from a welfare family once my dad left. And then I went on to chiropractic college because what I found is that people asked me, well, okay, you know something about becoming a champion because you're an Olympian. I'm interested. They said, well, you have this master's degree in sports science. Obviously, you know something about the body and how to craft a body that's got amazing power potential, but it also has staying power. I want to know about that. And I got asked a lot of questions about, well, how do I get and stay well? How do I prevent and manage injuries? So I decided, well, I'm going to go back chiropractic college because I like to work with my hands. So I went back to chiropractic college, and with the experience as an Olympian and having had the science and the discipline of my master's degree and having had the knowledge and the practical clinical application of how to get and stay well and prevent injuries and manage them, it really became a one-stop Jiffy Lube shopping center to go to that was a specialist, but I was a different type of specialist. I wasn't a specialist in a slice of the pie like many specialists are, but I was a specialist in the whole. So I could see the entire picture and I could decide what has to be there that needs to be there, what is there that shouldn't be there to create a coherent system that enables like the zone performance, whether it's in the boardroom or the locker room, it doesn't matter, to actually become the normal rather than the occasional exception. So that was really kind of my path to developing the skill to be able to be a little bit more than just a coach, a little bit more than just a mentor, but actually have a cornerman-like function where I could discuss anything at any time and be able to decipher and decide what steps have to be taken to be able to accelerate the movement forward towards the bigger future.
Yeah, wow. What a great story, and this is a consistency, with people who are really operating at that champion level of kind of, going through their own hardships, figuring it out. But you just said it, having those corner men, somebody that's beyond a mentor, beyond a coach, to be there to coach them and see the bigger picture. And that's something that I definitely picked up, you definitely see the whole enchilada, right?
Yeah, I do
And
it.
and one of the things that I really want people to take away from today is that we can be doing phenomenal in our body, but be struggling in our relationships. That's not a champion life, right? And we've seen this. We've seen people at the top of their game. Tiger Woods comes to mind, who are just like demolished in their personal life. So that's not really living that champion life. And when we were there together at your event and just seeing everybody, we wanted fulfillment, we wanted completion, we wanted to feel whole and to feel successful in all areas, because all areas of life matter. We're not just a part. When we get that identity that I'm just my body or I'm just this athletic career, oftentimes people hit the ground hard because they're so attached to that and that only. So that's really kind of what you opened my eyes to, is just seeing that all of us want to live this champion life and to feel complete in all these different areas. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Champion's Blueprint? So I know that it was a process of putting it all together, but what was really the inspiration for you coming up with the Champion's Blueprint?
Well, I appreciate that, Shawn. Obviously the inspiration was my dad in a certain sense, because he never became what he could have been, and he never will be what he could have been. And the tears that I shed are different than most people. They shed tears for what they did have with their family. I shed tears for what I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I look at a genius life wasted. And again, he had plenty of will, he had plenty of talent. He tried really hard. He had great technology and technique, but it didn't save him. And I see this kind of scenario play itself out all the time. And that's not acceptable to me, that people with talent and will don't manifest a life of fulfillment and contribution. So having experienced a tremendous amount of success myself with the principles that my mentors had shared with me, and then taking that into the business world and to the sports world, into the world of stage and life, I helped other people. I helped people win gold medals. I helped people with businessmen make their next millions of dollars. I helped thought leaders go to the next level. And having experienced having experienced that success across the board, I sat down one day and said, well, I've helped people win over 50 world, Olympic, national, and championships, and similar success. I mean, what is the common thread that every one of these people share in common?
Yeah.
And it's not their discipline. It's not. So really the observation was, and all these prolific performers that I helped achieve iconic status in their own disciplines, it wasn't that. It was really about how they showed up as people and how they made decisions. And so I sat down one day at a restaurant, I pulled out the napkin and a pen, and I said, can I really draw what this looks like? I mean, does this have a structure to it? So I sat there, I fiddled and I doodled, and I actually came up with a structure, and I discovered that there were 8 specific steps that every prolific performer goes through without exception. There are no exemptions to develop the capacity to be able to make the right decisions and execute the steps that have to go right to be able to achieve their highest goals most consistently. And that then became the founding structure of what I now call the Champion's Blueprint, which is a high performance achievement model.
Yeah, and it is phenomenal. I mean, just being able to go through it with you. And by the way, guys, this was over the course of 3 days. So each one of these components, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of juice to get out of all of it. But today, I want to give a powerful summation of what that looks like. So this would be a good spot to just kind of jump in and talk about it. So the Champion's Blueprint actually begins with legacy. So take us through, tell us why you start with legacy first. It seems kind of odd. And tell us, and let's go ahead and get started with it.
It really does. I mean, it's a myth that the legacy is something that you kind of look back over history at the end and then select the positive achievements, and that's what you leave behind it. That doesn't serve any useful purpose. In the Champion's Blueprint, legacy is always first, because what it does, it allows us to take a look at, I'm here right now, and on this current trajectory, if this trajectory plays itself out, this will ultimately be the life that I leave behind. So it gives us a chance right now to look at, if on this current trajectory, is this the way that I really want it to end? And if it's not the way that we want it to end, we can make those changes right now so it does end up being the product of what we hope it to be. And the other advantage of having a legacy statement is that it allows us to use it as a legacy, as a filter that every decision is run from and run through, where we can decide whether or not we want to engage it or not. So it keeps us in the highest level of integrity. And that's why it always starts with legacy, because that's truly our North Star. It's the overarching vision of how our race is actually going to end and what we leave behind. And I would say also that, every one of us is going to leave a legacy, whether we like it or not. Yeah. And it's going to serve as a permanent record that lives on in all of eternity for people to view, to see what we did with our talent and our time.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so moved by your origin story as well. You had devastating
Yeah.
circumstances happen. And I find that we have devastating circumstances that throw us off our balance. And then maybe if we get out of balance, we're focused in and honed in onto one thing. And that may be that fitness, the fitness component. And then all the rest are left aside. How do we see what our legacy could be, or a better legacy or outcome, when we're rocked so hard by some of these situations?
Well, it's always best to create the legacy in advance so that when you find yourself in hardship, you always have a reminder of who you are and what you're capable of doing, so that you're able to keep putting one foot in front of the other to be able to move forward, and you don't get deterred by even the most significant of all challenges. And the other side of that is to always be mindful that no one wins alone. It's really important that we have people in our life that we can defer to and we can throw a lifeline to when we need that. And those people need to be engaged and need to be put on standby in advance, so that if we start to feel like things are starting to go south, that we can engage them to make sure that we have a third voice that kind of gives us some direction to be able to stay in the game. That's really the things that have to happen.
Yeah.
Could you make that statement one more time? No one throws a lifeline to themselves. Is that what you were saying?
Well, no one wins alone, actually. It's kind of a myth that we can do it by ourselves, but nothing of any significance has ever happened by a person. It's like, if you're doing a great podcast, you need a great co-host, you need great engineers, you need a great set designer, you need the best of everything. And you guys are the perfect shining example of what it takes and what is possible when you have a team of committed people.
Awesome. So true.
That is so
true. I received that.
Indeed.
And this is such a great, just a pointer for kids. Like, what a great gift to give your child, that they can create their legacy now.
In advance.
In advance,
so cool.
that they can kind of, like my son comes right to mind, that he can actually define what his legacy is right now. And everybody listening right now, we live at a time where everything is getting recorded, which is good, and it isn't some not so good stuff. If you got some, not the best videos out there. But your grandkids, your great grandkids are going to be able to look back and see your story documented.
That's right.
Via Facebook, via, whatever medium it is there. But all this stuff is there now. It's like it's in the interwebs, recorded forever.
Yeah, I think of the moms and the grandmothers that take time out in advance to leave letters and love notes for their children and their children's children. Or the ones that knew that they had a terminal condition, that they wouldn't live beyond a certain time. They made a point to extend that in
Always
advance.
so powerful. And so that was really powerful for me, because it was when he said it, just like, that makes sense. And that's a lot of the protocol. So there's 8 steps. And step number 1 is legacy. And it's just like, of course, I want to start with legacy, because what we tend to do is get to it at the end and like, okay, so what do I want to leave? When we start with legacy, it really puts you in a place of extreme empowerment.
Oh, yes.
So that's step 1 is legacy. What do we move to next, Jeff?
Step number 2 is vision. And when we talk about vision, we're not talking about a goal. We're also not talking about a legacy. When we talk about vision, it's like, how do I see ourselves once we've achieved our goal? What is that going to do for us in terms of our emotive senses? Is it going to enable us to have a persona of greater confidence and certainty? Are the words that we use kind and soothing, and do they call people to a higher game? Are the things that we feel representative of the best of what the human nature has to offer? And those are things that really need to be considered up front. Once I've achieved my goal, how do I see myself, and what is that going to do for me? And if the answer is in the affirmative, then it's absolutely a goal worth pursuing. Vision is actually the emotive force. It's the spark plug. It's the reason behind our why. It's the thing that gives us purpose. It's the thing that gives us a reason to get up every day. It's bigger than ourselves. And unless we have something that transcends ourselves to get up to, it's very, very difficult to be able to show up every day and be the person that we're capable of, and be able to do those and execute and complete those action steps that are necessary to move us forward towards goal achievement.
In the program, you actually shared a definition of emotive force, and I want to share that. So it's emotive force. It's supplying extra power, energy, and passion to manifest your champion goal by supercharging your performance ability. And you shared a story about an emotive force in your life, this Olympic t-shirt. Can you share that story with us?
I can. It's as I said, I always wanted to be an Olympic athlete because I thought the coolest thing ever would be to march into the stadium. And that's what I did when I was hitting on baseball when I was 7. And so actually, I did make the Olympic team. And when we went to Washington, D.C. for our final processing before we made the trip to Munich for the Munich Olympics, we went to a processing center there and we got all of our Olympic clothes. And I went back to my room and I had a suitcase. It had all my Olympic suits and my sweatsuits and everything else. And I opened the suitcase and there it was, man. It was the t-shirt that I had seen in a bike shop 10 years earlier that a guy wore that said USA Olympic Team. And when I saw that, it's like, that's the thing that I wanted. That was my passion. That's the reason why I got up, because I wanted that t-shirt. And there was only one way to get that t-shirt. You couldn't go online and buy it. You had to earn it the old-fashioned way. You had to do the work. You had to log the miles. You had to achieve it. And that's what I dedicated my life to. And that was my life purpose. That was my emotive force, that t-shirt. And so when I got to the Olympic stadium and I pulled out the suitcase and I opened up the suitcase and there was the t-shirt, man. And it's like, I looked at it and I put it on the bed and I stood back and I kind of saw it. And it's like, I felt this reverence for this symbol of what's possible in the human domain with the help of others and with persistence and perseverance. And I felt that it wasn't really my t-shirt. I felt that everybody that helped me along the way deserved a piece of that t-shirt. And it was so sacred for me, Shawn, that I couldn't put it on.
Yeah.
And it's like my whole life was about getting it so I could put it on. So I did look like the guy that I first saw it wearing it 10 years ago that inspired me to pursue it. It was that sacred for me.
Yeah.
And as a welfare kid that had nothing, I would not have been able to make the Olympic team if it weren't for the contributions of others. So to this very day, the t-shirt still sits in the suitcase as a reminder of why we need each other and why we have to step up and take action on behalf of others, and why it is that we need to show up each and every day and make a contribution that counts towards calling people to a higher game.
Yeah. Powerful.
Extremely.
You know, he did all that work to get the shirt.
Get there, right.
And it's still brand new right now. You know, I love that, Jeff. And, you know, because it was the symbolism. It wasn't the t-shirt, it was what it meant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So powerful. And
then the idea that, oh, it's just sitting in a suitcase. No, it's sitting in the suitcase.
it's treasure.
As a trophy.
That's
So
Yeah.
this step 2 was really important, and it was one of the most powerful parts of the program for me because I love situations like that, and I'm a big fan and encourager of everyone. I'm a big fan of immersion and getting yourself in the environment, you know, because people might hear this show and they're like, Shawn knows all this stuff. Well, I'm still constantly seeing myself as a student, an internal student. I do not have all the answers, and I'm just going to continue learning. So going out and getting myself in the environment with what you put together, for example, was a huge learning experience for me, an immersive experience. And I love stuff like that because it makes you do the action. So when people are there, they have to script out what their vision looks like, right? They have to script it out because everybody's doing it. And so when you start to, and you know, scripturally it says, without a vision, people perish, right? Without a vision, people perish.
And write the vision, make it plain.
Yeah. So if you don't have a vision, then you're actually missing out on one of the most important and powerful human faculties that we have, which is to see beyond what is.
Yeah.
You know, because if you can see it with your vision, see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
That's
You know, I remember Bob Proctor saying that. Super powerful stuff. And one of the other things really quickly, if you can touch on this, and it really speaks to immersion, you said in the conversation about vision, step 2 is to expose yourself, right? Expose yourself.
Yeah,
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, actually, you know, it's really important that to be able to cultivate our vision and expand our possibility thinking, that we need to have exposure to people, places, and things that are not familiar to us, because, you know, all the things that shift paradigms or combinations of things that seem unlikely at first, but yet they are the catalyst for greatness in a personal achievement. And I believe that people actually need to schedule on their calendars things that they're not used to doing or they're uncomfortable with. So, for example, for me one day I said, I'm going to go to a Mensa meeting. You got to have an IQ above 160, whatever it is. I don't know what mine is, but I knew a friend that was in the Mensa meeting. I'd never been there. So I signed up with them and we went to a Mensa meeting. There were these guys playing 10 games of chess with each other and doing physics problems together and things like that. And, it was odd for me, but the lesson that I took home from it allowed me to combine that with another idea that I had that created something extremely unique. So, in my book, you actually have to schedule opportunity to expose yourself to things that you're not familiar with, or perhaps you're even uncomfortable being around.
Love it, love it.
Yes, it is.
This is a good segue. So let's move on from step 2. Let's go into step 3 in the Champion's Blueprint.
Step number 3 is a mindset. And when I talk about mindset, I'm not talking really about positive thinking or affirmations or visualizations. I'm talking about, do we really have the mindset to be able to pursue the goal that we're considering? Do we really understand the commitment that it's going to take, the hardships, the opportunities, the timelines, et cetera? I had a friend of mine that had a chance to go on tour with Usher. And I said, well, let's talk about this first. It means you're going to be on the road for 9 months. You're going to be in a different bed. You're going to be in a different hotel. There's going to be gossip. You're going to make plans to meet people at certain times. They're not going to show up. And I just want to make sure that you really understand the challenges that you're going to face before you start. So when they show up, you're ready for them. And that's the reason why a mindset that's proactive and establishing the reality of what it really is essential before you start pursuing any goal.
True, true. I love that. And it went beyond what people, it's just one of the popular things to say. You got to have a positive mindset.
Yeah.
Right? And you definitely went a lot deeper than that. And so the definition that you gave of mindset was an accurate understanding of the scope and effort required to achieve your champion goal and a genuine willingness to achieve it. Love it. I love it. And willingness is one of my favorite words of all time. I love that word, willingness, because it really speaks to beyond just a normal capacity of humans. We'll say, if we're trying something, but are you willing? Do you have that real burning desire, that willingness to accomplish it? Because it's one thing, and this gets out of the realm of just like wishful thinking or visualizing. Now you're getting more action oriented, as we move on with the Champion's Blueprint. And all of this, and I know it's complex, and I wish that I could share the whole thing with everybody, but hopefully people connect with you and they can experience it. But it's actually broken up into 2 specific spheres. The first 4 steps is preparation, right? And then the second 4 steps is what?
The second 4 steps is actually performance.
Right.
So in pursuing any goal, you always want to make sure that you're prepared before you start to perform and pursue it. And the champion's golden rule is you do the homework, you prepare, and the test is easy. And most people don't do near enough preparation. And the beauty about preparation is that it really doesn't take a lot of time and effort. There's no real skin in the game. All you're doing is really vetting the reality of what it's going to take to ensure success to be able to achieve your goal. Awesome. Most people just start. They think, well, the universe is going to figure it out for me. It's a great idea, but that's something that no champion ever does. They always do their homework so that the test is easy.
Love it. Yes, yes, yes. Love it. Well, Jeff, let's go ahead and move on to the last step in the preparation. What's step 4 of the Champion's Blueprint?
Step 4 is inventory. And inventory, there are 2 parts to this. There's a personal inventory. You got to make sure that you have the skills and that you also have the knowledge to be able to pursue your goal. And then you also need to make sure that you have the materials necessary to pursue your goals, the resources such as time, team, space, equipment, and financing. And one thing that all champions do is that they never begin the process of actively pursuing their goal unless they have had their inventory both personally and materialistically vetted by a third party for accuracy and completeness.
Love it, love it. Inventory is kind of self-explanatory, but not. We don't really assess all the pieces until we actually get called upon to do it. So you, by creating that environment, had me to actually sit down and map out the things that I needed to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And once you start to map it out, it becomes so tangible and doable. It's just like, and then you can start to see like there's 10 options for this instead of like, if I don't have this one thing, I'm not going to achieve. I want to back up actually, because something that I looked back at after leaving the event and several times was this primal genetic performance code. And this has to do with the mindset. And I'll just share this with everybody really quickly. There's a human nature that he shared, and there was also the champion nature. And the human nature was the default reflex. equaling survival, basically. And that's, we're talking about our amygdala and our limbic brain, you know, more concerned with surviving, versus our higher order functions that we as humans have. But if we're not utilizing it, we're not really utilizing our humanness. So the champion nature is override, it's excellence. So, and you can, of course, help with these, Jeff. You created it.
That's right.
But I just thought it's so
you
phenomenal.
Say the human nature,
So,
and you say the champion nature?
yeah, so the human nature, number one, is we ask this question: what do I stand to lose? Whereas the champion nature is what, Jeff?
What do I stand to gain?
Yes, yes. So powerful. What do I stand to gain? And so just elaborate on that one really quickly, then we'll just go through the rest. It's so good.
Yeah, I think just the one thing about the primal genetic code is people need to understand that there's two sides to us that are at war 24 hours a day. We've got our human nature that's based on fear and survival, and it gets first dibs at every bit of information because it's high speed, which it should be if we're in a survival situation. But the problem with that is that if you're only operating out of fear and survival, the very best, you're only going to be able to recreate history. You're never going to be able to make it. And then the champion's nature is one that's driven towards excellence. And I only know that because I've never met a person that can wait to get up and fail.
Yeah.
And so the champion's nature gets the final say over the first dibs of our fear-based survival instinct. And if you're going to make history and create a life of distinction, then there are certain principles that you need to apply to be able to make sure that the detractor and the voice inside our head that wants to talk us out of everything good remains in the background. And that's the distinction.
Yeah, and it's really, it's a switch that we can flip on in our minds, and
100%.
changing the question we're asking ourselves. So the first one is, what do I stand to lose? And this is a place that we naturally, a lot of us just come from. So asking instead, what is it that I stand to gain?
Yes.
The second one is, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. The champion nature version of that is, I'll find a way.
Yes.
I'll find a way.
Absolutely.
And by the way, guys, again, this is Jeff's
That
format,
is so
right?
us.
But it's so powerful. So number 3 of human nature is, it's in my genes. It's in my genes. That's why I can't do it. The diabetes, it's in my genes, Shawn.
That's right. I can't fit my jeans because of my jeans.
And the champion nature version of that is, it's in my power.
Yes.
It's in my power.
Epigenetic.
4 is, for human nature, if I were only like others. And 4 of the champion nature is, I'm my greatest asset. Number 5 of human nature is, will and talent are enough. Will and talent are enough. And of the champion nature version of that is, discipline and readiness rule. Yeah. Number 6 of the human nature is, it's about perfection. This is a huge one. Number 6 is, it's about perfection. Number 6 of the champion nature is, it's about that 1 to 2% that counts. And we're going to talk more about this. It's that 1 to 2% that counts. Number 7 is, I'm afraid, so won't even try. That's human nature. Champion nature is, I feel the fear and I do it anyways.
Anyway, do it afraid.
Human nature is, number 8, the last one here is, I whine. I complain, I whine. Champion nature is, I win.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I love that.
That was just a piece of the mindset structure that we went through. And again, we spent hours talking about this and having some real breakthroughs. And then we went on to step 4, which is inventory. And so now we're going to get into the actual application. We're going to get into step 5 here, Jeff. Can you share what step 5 of the champion blueprint is?
Step number 5 is the first step in Division 2 where we're actually performing. It's boots on the ground. Now we're actively pursuing our goal. And the whole objective of step number 5 is to achieve a breakout, where for the first time we perform at a level consistent with achieving our goal. It doesn't mean that we've achieved it yet, but it's a signal that we can actually get there. So for example, the first time I competed in a regional competition that had an Olympic prospect there and I beat him, that was my breakout, because then I knew I could do it. I wasn't on the Olympic team yet, but it was a signal that my preparation was sound and that I was on a trajectory to be able to achieve my goal.
Love it.
Now, what do you say to folks that would say, and I don't know anybody who would, but there may be somebody who might say, well, Dr. Jeff, you won at age 13. This has never been an issue for you. You always knew you were on that correct trajectory.
Well, yeah, it's a great idea. The only problem is it wasn't true. Because I never remember once ever sitting down and having dinner with my family. I never remember one time.
Wow.
I never remember one time my dad ever do anything with me. So it wasn't really that. This really came from a breakout moment that I had that I want to share with people. when I was with my corner man, the most important man in my life, when I was 18, and he was 76.
Wow.
I met him when he was 76 and I was 18. He was my corner man. This guy loved me. And one day I was having a bad day and he came up to me and said, "Man, you're having a bad day, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, well, I haven't had many good ones, as you all know." And he said, "You want a helping hand?" And I thought to myself, how did this guy know that if there was ever a day, today was the day?
Yeah.
And so I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, I mean, how do I express my thanks for this?" And he looked at me and said, "Well, if you want a helping hand, you got one at the end of each arm." And he turned around and walked out of the room. He left me by myself.
Wow.
And it's like, this guy loved me so much that he wasn't going to intervene with me figuring out a way to find my way out of my predicament, to gain a level of self-confidence and certainty that there wasn't anything that they couldn't do, and that all the parts were inside my brain. I just needed to execute it.
Yeah.
That was my life-defining moment, no question about it.
That's huge.
Love it. Yeah.
And as a corner man, that's key, because he never left your corner, but he can't step into the ring and fight for you.
That's exactly right. And to me, that's one of the greatest expressions of love that there is between people.
Yes. So the climb you defined as the start of actively pursuing your goal. So after we've done the preparation phase, now we're starting our climb. And a lot of people listening right now, you're on the verge of your breakout. You know exactly what he's talking about, and you're on that climb. And this is fine-tuning your performance to achieve your breakout moment. And once that happens, you know, and a lot of people listening have already had that happen, and it can happen in different areas of life is what's so powerful about this.
Yeah.
Because there are some things that I've already blown through. There's some other stuff that I'm definitely on the beginning phases of, you know, and this really helped to flesh that out. So the climb is really powerful here, and just kind of creating the structure to have your breakout moment. So let's move on to number 6 on the Champion's Blueprint.
Step number 6 is elevation. And this is where you take your breakout and you evolve it so it becomes your new normal, and you're so good at it, you can't get it wrong. And once you've gotten so good at your breakout and it becomes your new normal, then you're really playing at the top of your game, in line, and you've actually achieved your goal, and you're able to repeat achieving that goal moving forward.
Yeah, I love it. You become so good at it that you can't get it wrong.
I love it.
I love that, Jeff. And it's like, it's who you are, and you know it. And it's a part of you. You've consistently performed to a degree that it's just who you are. And I love the way that he articulates it as, you know, you can't get it wrong. And that's how I like to structure things that I do with my clients, with the people in my life, is to create conditions to make it impossible to fail.
Sure.
That's beautiful.
Right?
Yep.
Dr. Jeff, is there ever a plateau in this process that we could ever encounter?
Well, generally, there are planned plateaus where you need to pause and you need to let yourself and your team recover and recover some of their energy through maybe a significant push, or to recover some resources required. And the best time to do that is in elevation. Once you've had your breakout, that's the best time to do that. But if you're trying harder and going nowhere, it means that there's some block, you're running some pattern that history would show us, if we looked deeper, that would indicate that we have created for ourselves a preventable stall, and we would just need to define what that is, and then adjust our strategy to be able to move beyond that.
Sure. And that would be maybe even going back to one of the first 4 steps.
Yeah.
Well, generally, if you hit a stall in a block, you would actually look into the step itself, because there are different patterns within the step that we go through in the workshop that indicate to us what the most likely cause of the stall would be. Right. And then it also shows us the principle that we need to apply to that to be able to jumpstart the stall and then move the process forward towards completion.
Yeah, and I love that, because in the program, there were people there who've actually attended multiple times. There's like, I get something new every time I come. Super successful people. And it was so powerful, because they were saying that the things that they learned from you, you actually gave them basically the preview of what was to come. And when you went through it, it was very predictable for them to traverse and get through it quicker. So that leads us to step 7 here. We're almost at the top here. So step 7, we're moving past elevation to step 7, which is?
Adaptation. And this is once you've kind of arrived at the top of your game, you've achieved your goal, you've decided to continue with the goal and repeat it, and be mindful that sometimes when you achieve a goal, you change as a person, because you have more opportunities, you have a different level of income, you have a different sphere of influence, and not everybody's going to like that. Yeah. Some of your friends and maybe even your family are going to turn their back on you. because they're not going to celebrate your success. So really, an adaptation is where you're learning to deal with the external forces outside of yourself where you've never encountered those before. And if we expect that to be part of the process and we're ready for it, then we're able to absorb that and adapt and then be able to move forward and complete and achieve more bigger and more lofty goals in the future.
Right. Have anybody listening right now, has anybody in your circle, your family, friends, said the words to you, you forgot where you came from? You know, who do you think you are?
Right.
What are you doing? You can't do that. So if you've heard any of this seeming hateration, it's really, it's a part of the process. And then, you know, when this stuff starts to manifest and you understand this blueprint, you're ready for it as well, because it could be very disheartening when the people you love so much are questioning what you're doing, you know, and you know that with everything in your heart, every fiber of your being, that you're working to be better. You're working to be better for them. But it really speaks to them, you know, not stepping up to the plate themselves. That's one of the big things.
That's
you know,
right,
and they
Shawn.
get it's a threat. You know, it's a threat to their sameness. And also they don't want to lose you. You know, they don't want to lose that person that they've come to know, that Jade who's like, "Oh, little Jade, look at you, little." And then all of a sudden you're the high priestess, you know, goddess Jade. And they're like, "Oh, your light's too bright," you know.
Yes.
But it's just really understanding that, and this is a part of the process. And adaptation, I love this, that you
very
talked about,
necessary.
that it's becoming better suited for performance at the highest and most demanding level. So this is being able to perform and be who you are, that champion, consistently, no matter what's going on around you, right? That's so powerful. And there are people right now who, you know, you're doing great things, but if something comes up in your life, it throws you off. It throws your whole game off, and you just can't perform without these certain things being right. Well, you can grow past that, and this is part of the champion blueprint that I learned from Jeff. And again, this was like several hours we dove into this topic, so I'm giving you guys a preview of it, what it looks like. Now let's move on to step 8 of the champion blueprint.
Step number 8 is the wave. And this is where you've not only mastered the technical discipline, but you've also mastered the external forces that you need to penetrate and adapt to be able to move into this rarefied era of the wave. And this is where you choose the appropriate goals that are consistent with adding to your legacy. And the most important part about this, Shawn, is that when we're talking about riding the wave, we're talking about picking your next goal. We're talking about doing the preparation for it. We're talking about performing to be able to achieve it. But once we performed it, we pause on the other side of that and we rest to recover. And then once we're recovered, then we choose our next goal.
Yeah.
And most people don't do the pause. And unfortunately, they burn themselves up. They may blow up a relationship. They may create a catastrophic health problem as a result of not respecting that pause. So when we respect, it's not like when we pause, it's not like we're losing time.
Yeah.
It's not like we're giving something up to other people. We're actually extending the level of our productivity to add the most significant number of and magnitude of successes to our growing legacy.
Yeah, I was so happy that you brought that to the forefront for all of us, and looking at, you know, strategically having that pause instead of life forcing you to, you know, by you ignoring the laws of the body and the laws of reality, period, you know. And so you weave that into this, and it was incredibly powerful, a really great experience. And I hope that everybody connects with you to learn more about the Champions Blueprint.
Absolutely.
If they can, definitely hook up with you and come to one of your events. It would be phenomenal experience. I can't recommend it enough. And I know that you've got a bunch of stuff that you're doing online that you're putting together as well. But let everybody know where they can connect more with you, Jeff.
Well, the best place, Shawn, is www.drjeffspencer.com, DRJEFFSPENCER.com, drjeffspencer.com.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, I just want to thank you from my heart to yours for the person that you are.
Yes.
You know, you mean a lot to me. You've impacted my life a lot, even though you might not know it because I play it so cool. You know, but you've impacted my life a lot.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you, not just for myself, but for all the people's lives who you're impacting through the people you've helped.
Exactly.
You know, it's phenomenal. Your reach is far beyond what you can imagine. And I just really want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and just keep being a powerful force on this planet. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Well, you know, I appreciate you saying that, and thanks for your kind words, Shawn. And just kind of as a parting remark here is that, you know, there's 7 billion people on this planet right now, and there's only one of each of every one of us. You know, we're unique in all of creation, and we should never underestimate the capacity that we have to be a force for good and to be able to call people to a higher game and create a legacy of value that lives on beyond us, that shows people that living a life of passion, purpose, productivity, and achievement is possible. So thanks again, Shawn.
Awesome.
I love
You're
that.
so welcome.
Dr.
Everybody,
Jeff, thank you.
everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I hope that you got a lot of value out of this, and it just hope to open your mind to understanding that there is a pattern, you know, that there are people who've gone before you who've been through this pattern, and it's something that you can replicate. You know, whatever struggle or wherever you might be caught up in this paradigm, in this circle of life, there is a way to traverse it. There is a way to get through it, and there's a way to get through it gracefully. You know, it's just starting to broaden your perspective, see the bigger picture, and understand that there's a pattern there, and there's a way that you can move and weave and bob and weave, and
Right. Follow
you can
that yellow brick road.
follow the yellow brick road, and you can achieve at a far higher level than you can even imagine. And it's really as simple as immersion. You know, it's so important. And like Dr. Jeff said today, exposing yourself. It's one of the big keys to helping you to get to where you want to go, and seek out and find that corner man in your life. And Dr. Jeff Spencer is becoming that person in my life. And I encourage you guys to look to him, and also look to some of the people out there who could be a potential corner man in your life, you know, beyond the coaches and mentors, which are incredibly valuable, but somebody who sees the bigger picture when you can't see it. All right, so take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk with you soon.